Hey everyone, Boardgame Brody here with Meeple Mountain. I have a prototype copy of Overlord. It's a new game from Brotherwise Games coming to Kickstarter. Overlord is a drafting set collection tile placement game that takes place in the retro-inspired pixel art world of Brotherwise Games' title Boss Monster. In this game, boss monsters have emerged from the dungeons to conquer the overworld, and each turn players will be placed in terrain tiles and monster tokens forming a map trying to make the deadliest and overpowering place for when heroes come adventuring, they will most definitely perish. At the end of the game, whoever has the highest power score wins the game. To set up the game, each player will take a player board, and this board has two sides. It has a 3x4 grid side and a 4x4 grid side. Decide if you want to play a short or slightly longer game, and everyone will choose the same side of the board to use, with the 4x4 side being the side for the slightly longer game. Shuffle the terrain tiles as best as you can. Sometimes you might need to lay them out face down and shuffle them on the table, and then stack them neatly into a pile. You will take all the tokens and you will place them all in the bag. Lastly, you will draw 4 terrain tiles from the terrain stack and place them out in the center of the table, and you will also draw 4 tokens from the bag and randomly place one next to each terrain tile to make a pair. And there you go, the setup is that easy. So let's get to playing the game. After choosing a first player, players will perform their turn in sequence one after another by first taking one of the tile and token pairs and then placing them on your board. You will keep taking turns doing this until all players have their board filled up. When choosing the tile and the token pair to recruit for your map, you will need to remember how each one scores points, and you will need to visit your map frequently so that you know which one might help you score more points than another. Now, when placing your selection, you will place it in an open square in the grid on your player board. And also notice that some squares border mountains and some border water, and some border both. After placing your tile where you would like, it's time to place your token, and each one is placed differently depending on what type it is. Each terrain tile can only have one token on it, and the monster and the mini-boss tokens have to be placed on an open terrain tile if there is one available, except for dungeon entrances. If you have a monster or a mini-boss with a dungeon entrance, then you will need to place that token on another tile, and if you can't, then you'll need to place it off to the side of your board. Whenever you have an unused monster or mini-boss token on the side, on future turns you can place that token onto your new tile instead of the new token that was collected. And the newly acquired token will be placed to the side of the board that can be used on future turns as well. Crystals and portals will always be placed in your lair here, and they will all have different effects on the game. At the end of your turn, you'll place out a new tile and a token so that the next player has 4 pairs to choose from. The game ends when everyone has completely filled up their board with terrain tiles, and when everyone is finished, you'll grab the score sheet and tally up the power points. Let's go over how everything is scored, as this is crucial for the recruitment and the placement of tiles and tokens. Let's talk about the tiles first. The forests. The more you have, the more average point per tile that you will score. Scoring will follow this chart here. The graveyards. Whoever owns the most will command the Legion of the Undead and score the most points. So each graveyard tile will have its point value shown on the rightmost of the text bar, and whoever has the most graveyards will score an extra 5 points. And whoever has the second most will score an extra 2 points. If there is ever a tie, then both players will score the shown points. The orc camps. Now, the number of unique orc camps that you have on your map based on the color and symbol of the flag on each tile will determine the number of points you score. Similar to the forest, you'll visit this chart when tallying up points. Caves. The natural layers of dragons and other beasties. These tiles like to be placed near the mountains, and you will score 1 point for the tile itself, and if it borders a mountainous part on the map, then you will score an additional 2 points. Swamps. Each swamp is worth 1 point. If it borders another watery spot on the board, then it will score 1 additional point, and 1 point more for if it's next to at least one other swamp tile. Dungeons. Dungeons do best when placed in the center of your map because they will score 1 point for the tile itself and 1 additional point for each unique tile type that borders its 4 sides. Tokens will then be scored different ways depending on the token type. Monster tokens are scored based on the arrangement they are placed on the player's board and if they match up with the terrain tile that they're on or not. Each straight line of 2, 3, or 4 of the same monster type is called a band. Bands are scored according to their size. Visit this chart here for points that will be awarded. A single monster can also be counted in both a horizontal and a vertical band. Each matching monster on your board is worth 1 extra point. All monster tokens have an icon that matches that of their preferred terrain type. Mini-bosses are worth 2 points if placed on a terrain tile. These tokens don't count towards bands of monsters, and they don't match a specific terrain icon. Crystals grant bonuses for a specific type of terrain. There are 5 crystals total, each corresponding with a specific terrain type. Remember, these always get placed in your lair, and at the end of the game, they score 1 point per terrain tile of the crystal's type on your board. Portals aren't worth any points. These are placed in your lair with the glowing side, the active side up. This tile can be flipped over to change positioning of up to 2 monsters or mini-bosses on your board by swapping places. Portals can be used immediately when drawn or saved for later. They will move the monster and mini-boss tokens only and not the tiles that are underneath them. After scoring the tiles and the tokens, whoever has the most points wins the game. The game offers a great puzzly experience placing tiles on the board. It's strategic by deciding tile placement and deciding the type of tiles that you want to monopolize in, as they are all scored differently. The theme is not typical as you are trying to be the best baddie instead of being the best adventurer. And all of this can be played in a short amount of time, which makes the game playable in almost all situations. The game can be played with 2 to 4 players, with little change when playing a 2-player game versus a 4-player game. It seems like the game is designed to be a lightweight game that can be played fairly quickly. You draft from 4 options, and the placement of your tile choice and token choice will determine your points that you score. Now, depending on which tile and token that you choose during the recruitment phase, you will possibly be able to plan better when you have a token that couldn't be placed earlier that you can now choose to place your save token or the newly acquired token. This will cause you to have a tile on your board without a token on it, but it gives you flexibility in placing all future tokens, which can give you a lot more points. If you like the Boss Monster world or pixel art retro themes, Overlord is a great option that can be played in a limited amount of time and still includes a tight strategic game. So become the baddest baddie in Overlord by Brotherwise Games. Again, this is Boardgame Brody. I hope you enjoyed this video. Stick around and check out some other board game reviews to see what you might want to get to the table.